keep forgetting that this is still only the second Captain America movie. I think it also is confusing because Iron Man standalone has had 3 already. Thor has had 2. But then Captain America is also in the Avengers, and he's just kind of like a constant theme. So I'm excited for this week. It's the second Captain America movie, and I'm ready for it. I hope you are too. Hello friendships! Welcome back for another magical movie review with me, Magic by Molly. This week we are continuing our MCU series with Captain America the Winter Soldier. So if you haven't watched any of the other MCU magical movie reviews, definitely check those out so you can get caught up on where we are now. We are watching them in chronological order, so if you do go back and wonder why Captain Marvel is there second, that's why. We break things down into 4 parts on Magical Movie Review. We talk about magic moments, which are things that I like about the movie or just that bring me joy. And then we also talk about enchanting efforts, which are things that may not land well with me or just leave a lot of question marks over my head. We also select a VMP, or a very magical person, that wins the episode. And then we top it all off with just the rankings of the movie, in my opinion, so far for that series. This is my buddy boy. His name is Felix, and he'll probably be in today's video a lot just because he's been so obsessed with me today. White boy? Love that boy. And it's so crazy because I just announced on Instagram that this week's movie was The Winter Soldier, and my friend Charlotte just sent me a message and said that the puppy that she's fostering is named Winter after the Winter Soldier. So that's really cool. So Charlotte, if you're watching, I just got this. Alright, so let's dive right in with magical moments. First and foremost, Captain America's like stealth suit that he uses to go on the mission with Natasha to the Indian Ocean is just badass. I think it's one of my favorite suits of his. The original one is a classic and it's very patriotic, but I think the stealth one is my favorite, and we get to see that premiered or presented in this movie. I would have to pay attention to movies moving forward and possibly even go back and watch some of his other movies, but Captain America, it was really prevalent to me in this movie, especially in the first scene on the ship, or on the scenes throughout the ship rather, that he doesn't actually kill anybody, and then kind of watching the movie, he's never really killed anybody on purpose. He just kind of like knocks people out, which I think is important to notate for a superhero movie. I think sometimes that gets lost in translation. It's just really popular to have like an action-packed movie where you are defeating the bad guy, and most of the time that means killing them, especially just with all the movies we have now that kids are watching and video games that they're playing. And so I think it's nice to see that Captain America can still win the fight without having to fatally wound anybody. So I took that as a magical moment or a magical theme throughout the movie. I also really love how much Steve still loves Peggy, even though she's aged. Like, I don't think he'll ever get over her, especially just since we're at this point in the MCU. Of course, we know that may or may not change later, but it means a lot to me to have a love story that lasts 70 years, because we only see love stories that last in these like itty-bitty time frames of movies that we're seeing. But in this movie, it really puts into perspective that they fell in love the very first MCU movie with Captain America, the First Avenger. We're on the 10th movie now, and he's still in love with her. And it never really hit me before, because that scene in particular is distracting, and I'll tell you why in Enchanting Efforts, so stick around for that. It really shows you the power of love, lack of a better cliche. I really enjoy Anthony Mackie as an addition to the Avengers team. I think One, that he brought in a really great opportunity to talk about mental health for our veterans, which is something that I've always cared about, especially being an Army brat. But he also is just so incredibly funny, and his banter back and forth with Steve feels so incredibly wholesome, where we get a lot of back and forth between Steve and Natasha, or Steve and Tony for that matter. Like, there's a lot of banter and really great chemistry in many different ways, but this one just seems different. It seems like they met and they were friends instantly. I feel like all of the other Avengers had to like go through some shit together to then become friends or like be civil to each other. So I just enjoy their chemistry together, Chris Evans and Anthony Mackie. I like the tie-in of his storyline within the MCU, because there's a reason why he's there and he has a backstory, is deeply intertwined with what has happened in the MCU so far. And so I don't think it's so totally random that they met. There's a reason that Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie's character, is a part of this project of Tony Stark's to have like men flying in these like Falcon suits to be just another weapon for the military. And then ultimately he has lost a friend, just like Captain America has, and I think that brings them together. But then also they're using the strengths that they had in their former lives in today's fight against Hydra. I don't think it's just another Avenger, like another secondary Avenger that they're adding. Of course I don't love him as an Avenger as much as I do the main group, but I think he has a better backstory. His plug into the MCU makes a lot more sense. Like, it just feels right. And then of course, just kind of going into further their banter and how easy the chemistry is, there are so many incredible one-liners in this movie that just are so smart but also so obvious at the same time that it makes it even more funny. So just the one that I wrote down, not even like the only one that I would say that gives me like that made me laugh like out loud, like belly laugh. It's in the last big fight scene where they're trying to take down the helicarriers, and Sam Wilson is running through the office building and he's telling Nick Fury what floor he's on, and of course he jumps out the window and has to fall a little bit because the helicopter isn't quite there right at the 41st floor. And Sam goes, "I said 41st," and Nick Fury says, "Well, the floor numbers aren't on the outside of the building." I don't know why that made me laugh so incredibly hard. I think it's because they're not trying to go out of their way to be funny in this like crazy scenario that they're all in. Like, they're literally yelling at each other the way that like my friends and I would be yelling at each other in a stressful situation like this. So I think that that's why the one-liners, the comedy, makes a lot more sense in this movie than it did in Thor: The Dark World, because I made a very similar observation as an Enchanting Effort in Thor: The Dark World's magical movie review. So check that out to see kind of the difference there, but I think Captain America, the Winter Soldier, just does it so much better. I had a long list of magical moments throughout this film. Those are gonna be my big ones, my highlights. So let's move on to Enchanting Efforts while we still have some time. I really honestly don't have very many. The first one that I wrote down, and it's gonna be true in all of the films that this particular feature is in, but specifically when they are in the moment of showing Steve Rogers in present day and Peggy present day as an older woman, they use those like aging computer filters. I don't know what to fucking call them. I don't know if they did practical effects on her face and that part seems fine. Everything around her eyes and her like cheeks, but when she starts talking, next time you watch this movie, pay attention to her mouth. Her mouth is, the way that it moves does not make sense for the rest of her body. Like, it feels like, you know what it reminds me of, and I'm just now I'm putting this together, but you know those old YouTube videos of the annoying orange where somebody just like put their own mouth talking on just an orange? That's exactly what it looks like. I hate it. It's so distracting. It takes away from the moment. Why are we using computer generated features when you could absolutely do that with practical makeup application? You don't need to use a computer to age somebody's face, especially only their mouth. It doesn't make any sense. I hate it. They do it multiple times throughout the MCU and I'm over it. I'm done. I can't with that. That's the biggest complaint that I have about this movie. It's horrible. It doesn't make sense why they did it that way, because I feel like this is one of the best MCU movies because they try to use more practical effects throughout the entire movie. So with the fight scenes and everything, they do more like up close camera work, hand-to-hand combat stuff, which is why I really like the fight scenes in this movie. It feels more realistic. And so it almost feels insulting that they can't even do that with just an old lady talking. They can't make that work without a computer. I can't. I'm over it. The only other thing that I wrote down as a big enchanting effort was, and this was in the middle of the movie, I wrote, can Captain America just want to live at the end of one of his movies? Like, just his movies specifically, he's always so self-sacrificing at the end. The first one, like, he definitely killed himself off. Like, he just dove the plane right into the ice. And in this movie, he was willing to let his friend Bucky / the Winter Soldier kill him. Like, just want to live just a little bit. And somebody else, and of course Bucky saves him again. Like, somebody else is finding his body and dragging it ashore and then he's fine. I just need Cap to want to live at least once in one of his movies. That's really all I want. Next up, of course, we're selecting a VMP, and I had a tough time choosing a VMP for this movie. There's so many redeeming moments for so many of these characters. Nick Fury has a really great storyline here. Black Widow does. You know I'm a sucker for Black Widow, so not picking her for VMP is tough. Sam Wilson, our new Avenger as the Falcon, he's such a great character. I think I'm gonna have to go with our titular character of Captain America. I mean, he has so many great moments in this movie. The elevator fight scene, I mean, it's just iconic. Like, that will never not be one of my favorite fight scenes in all of the MCU movies. He is having a difference of, he's not just a good old boy following orders anymore. He's doing what he knows is right. And so while, like, it still feels very Captain America, we get a different type of storyline for him. And of course, his love for Bucky and what he's willing to do to save and rescue him and do what's right for him too. I think he outshines his character from other movies in The Winter Soldier. So I'm going with Steve Rogers, Captain America, for this week's VMP. And so of course I tried to do like a subtle Captain America today with like the stealth color blue. And then of course the only red and white bow that I had was a Minnie Mouse bow. So that's just what you're getting today. Last but not least is my movie rankings of the MCU series so far. And of course, this one was tough because the top 4 or 5 all had about the same number of magical moments or enchanting efforts for me on like my totals list. This one was tough, but I'm gonna keep the Avengers at the top, then Iron Man, then Captain America the Winter Soldier, then Captain America the First Avenger, then Thor, Iron Man 3, Captain Marvel, Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, and Thor the Dark World. So it's definitely up there. It's third in my list. I can't put it above Iron Man. Iron Man is my favorite Avenger, that being the first MCU movie in the release date order. Definitely gives him that nostalgic factor that I just can't get over. But I do really love this movie. Every time I watch it, it doesn't bore me. So I think it has that replay factor. I think it's giving us a lot of new feelings, a lot of new excitement, and yet still keeps the classic theming of Captain America that we all know and love. So that's it. That's Magical Movie Review for this week for Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Let me know what you think. If you have a different order of these movies that you'd like to comment down below, definitely feel free. I like talking about themes that I miss, themes that other people don't like about the movie, or if you just want to debate about my rankings, that's fine too. Make sure to like and subscribe, and go ahead and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time a Magical Movie Review gets posted. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week and stay weird.